You are listening to Nesting After Divorce, Co-Parenting in the Family Home, written by Beth Behrendt, narrated by Nadia Verde. This book is dedicated to all parents who hope to break the conventional expectations of divorce and co-parent in a positive way for the good of their children and themselves, and to all the nesting parents who've been paving the way to a new approach, packing and unpacking, carting our bags back and forth, and waking up so many mornings half asleep wondering, where am I today? So our children don't have to. They can wake every morning knowing that they are home. Introduction. I will forever remember the moment the trajectory of my life changed. He was holding my hand across the table as we sat in the front window of our favorite local pub. It might have looked like a regular date night to a casual observer, but it was not. I was resisting the visceral urge to pull my hand free, and I could no longer look him in the eyes. The negative emotions were too strong. Instead, I averted my gaze to the reflection of the flickering candle in the window and watched the heavy snowflakes pile up on the streetscape on the other side of the glass. Then he sighed and said the last thing I expected to hear. "All right, I'm going to set you free. I'm going to let you go." I was flooded with relief that we were finally agreeing to end our marriage. Then I was immediately overwhelmed with fear and worry. What was this going to do to our 3 kids? How did we, get to that moment? Well, a long time ago, Bill and I met in graduate school at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill and started dating. We both got jobs in Washington, D.C. after graduation and married a few years later. People still tell us what a fun wedding it was. Within a couple of years, we were enjoying our jobs, renovating a 1908 row house in the Capitol Hill neighborhood, and parenting a dog and thinking that made us ready to try the kid thing. I remember we were driving back from Home Depot, loaded down with the supplies for that day's house projects, when we made the decision to start a family. Bill noted how funny it is that the biggest and best decisions of life can sometimes happen in the most mundane ways. Fast forward 15 years later, we had 3 young children. A lot of our life was good, but it was also stressful. We lived in an expensive city with young children and without any family nearby. Plus, Bill had long twice-daily commutes. We decided to move to my hometown of Fort Wayne, Indiana to save some money, be near my parents and my sister's family, and slow down. We found a sprawling 1949 mid-century modern home that we loved in a neighborhood close to a great school. It felt like the perfect place for our children to grow up. Secretly, I hoped a simpler lifestyle and less financial stress would be the help our marriage needed. Things had not been great for a while. Sadly, our ingrained problematic behaviors seemed to have gotten worse with the arrival of children. My issues? Avoid conflict and full honesty. Just hope difficult situations don't arise ever again. His? Deny depression and anger issues. Just hope his natural charm would smooth things over after an outburst. Bill would erupt in anger, and I would unquestioningly placate or even lie to him. We made some short-lived attempts at therapy, but we just couldn't commit to overcoming our problems. It was easy to get distracted by everyday life and raising 3 kids. In the almost 18 years we'd been married, despite ongoing problems, I had never seriously considered divorce. Divorce? I would never do that to my children. I held the close-minded opinion that most divorced people were selfishly putting themselves above the needs of their kids. But now, I was beginning to worry that our marriage was hurting our kids more than it was helping them. I was growing convinced that the energy we were putting into saving our marriage was robbing the kids of the energy we should have devoted to parenting them. I began to consider that divorce might be the only way. At the same time, I was racked with guilt that our divorce might cause irreversible emotional damage to our kids. The concerns were overwhelming. Would I be able to parent on my own? Would other kids at school make our children feel bad about having divorced parents? Would the experience set them up to fall into broken relationships themselves? Our sons were 5, 9, and 12. They fell smack into the age range, between 3 and 13, when divorce is considered to be most harmful to children. Children are resilient, people say all the time when it comes to divorce. But anyone who was a child of the old school approach to divorce, heck, anyone who was a child, really, would probably strongly disagree. Current neuroscience and child development research indicate that children are not naturally resilient. Resilience is a trait that develops over time and develops best in a stable, nurturing environment. I had personal experience of being from a broken home when my parents separated for a time while I was in high school. Though they ultimately reconciled, recollections of the period of my parents' separation still haunted me. The worry, embarrassment, and sense of abandonment I'd felt all those years ago came rushing back to me as I considered my own divorce. I didn't want to be the cause of those feelings in my beloved children. I hoped with all my heart to do things differently. But how? I read countless books, articles, and blog posts about how to navigate post-divorce dynamics with your children and former partner, but so much of the information about co-parenting seemed outdated. Dad gets one night a week and every other weekend. The advice seemed based on contentious relationships and making sure you got your way. None of it was giving me much hope. One Sunday morning, I came across a review of a self-help book on divorce called It Doesn't Have to Be That Way. That title alone gave me hope. That's exactly what I keep wondering. Once I had the book in hand, I devoured it. It was there I first encountered an unconventional approach to co-parenting. It was a lightning bolt moment. This is the answer. What was it? Nesting. What is nesting? Keeping the kids in the family home after divorce while the parents take turns caring for them, like how mommy and daddy birds fly in and out of the nest to care for the fragile baby birds who stay put in comfort and safety. Maybe you're already familiar with nesting because you saw that actress Busy Phillips and her ex, Mark Silverstein, Gwyneth Paltrow and Chris Martin, or Jeff and Mackenzie Bezos tried it as they divorced. However, don't be deterred. Nesting isn't an option just for celebrities and billionaires. In fact, ordinary people like you and me, all over the country, all over the world, are finding creative ways to make nesting work for their families. Nesting has been on the fringes of divorced parenting for decades, but recent factors are leading to a groundswell of interest in this approach. First, changes in attitudes about divorce. Divorce is not going away, but the parents of today were often children who lived through a traditional, though traumatic, two-home approach to divorce and want to avoid that same fate for their children. Modern parents are more in tune with and aware of the importance of their own and their children's mental well-being. Conscious uncoupling, positive divorce, and cooperative co-parenting are common catchphrases and hashtags on social media these days. Nesting co-parenting melds the contemporary surge in the positive divorce movement with a panacea for the anxieties of our current lives. These days, especially, families are fraught with anxiety. There is no denying that the coronavirus pandemic was detrimental to careers, financial situations, and the mental well-being of adults and children. Not surprisingly, The stress associated with the pandemic strained even the strongest of marital relationships. We're still learning.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?